All right, so I'm making this video for you guys today as a lab, essentially. I didn't do it live in class only because it's hard for me to bring somebody into class during their work days. But last week we were talking about auto-regulation, or we at least just started to talk about it. So I'm gonna actually show you guys how we can build an individualized velocity profile. We're actually gonna go through it with two different people, both myself and a competitive powerlifter today. So what we use to track velocity is this little box right here. It's called a Vitruvi. I ordered this from, I believe it's from a small company in Spain. What you're gonna do is you simply turn this guy on, power goes on, it's on, and then you place it underneath the barbell, right? And then from there, right, you have to hook it to a metal weight, right, an iron. So we hook it to a 5-pound plate. This way it doesn't move when it's attached to the barbell, right? So you see this little string right here? This is going to wrap around the barbell, like so. And while we are benching, squatting, deadlifting, in this case benching, right, this is going to track both speed, or velocity I should say, and distance, okay? So it's gonna calculate velocity based on time and our distance traveled. So it's gonna calculate how long it takes to get from point A to point B. It's gonna calculate the distance, and with those variables, we can calculate velocity, all right? So we're also gonna rush through this a little bit. We're probably gonna do some things that I wouldn't normally do. We probably are gonna go a little faster in terms of rest periods between attempts. But what we're doing is just one repetition at a time, trying to move the barbell as fast and technically sound as possible. All right, so Sam's gonna go first. Just a couple things while she's benching. You can just do your thing, don't worry about me. You guys can see like a few tips that I've given you already for bench press. She rolls the bar to the edge of the J-cups. She gets into her setup. Once again, Sam is a competitive powerlifter. So she's got a slightly larger arch than your average lifter probably. And right, good. Good, okay. So if you guys see the velocities pop up on this iPad, oh, we didn't press start. All right, we'll take one more attempt there and just do one there then. That's our fault, we didn't press start on the app. So you press start, now it's actually tracking. It's connected, so you see it's connected up there. And you'll see as soon as she finishes the repetition, the velocity will pop up. Good. So that was 0.49. Let's take about 45 seconds. Normally, we would have this completely standardized. We would take 2 to 3 minutes between every repetition. We would make sure the setup's the same, make sure they come in the same status, whether it's having not ate a meal or ate a meal. It would be standardized normally. So you see her speed right here was 0.49 meters per second. 0.49 meters per second. Good. All right, that one was 0.46. 0.49, Sam, just do me a favor and write these down in your notebook because we're actually going to use this data. Okay. So that's 0.49 and 0.46. I'm going to click end because all of a sudden we're going to throw some more weight on there. I think what we'll do is we'll do your 85 before I get on. Okay. This way it's just easier to change the weights. So I need some weights.
Wait.
We'll just level 5 on each end. Make it simple. Got to pull the encoder back around the bar. You adjust the weight that it's reading, and then you click start again. there, 85.
Okay.
It's probably measuring kilos for some reason. That doesn't matter. Don't worry about it. Because we're gonna use the data. We're gonna use the raw data. We're just gonna look at. I know exactly what attempt it is, and we're gonna put it into an Excel spreadsheet later. So that doesn't matter for us right now. The app also records everything, so you can come back. So, for instance, if we wanted to come back to this data, it would come back telling us the velocity with the weight, which this is incorrect. I think it's set up for kilograms right now. All right, so let's go ahead and do your first attempt at 85. Now what you'll notice when Sam is benching, again, she's got that slightly bigger arch. She's got a wider grip. Again, this is another way to, those are two ways to artificially decrease her range of motion on the bench press. And press, good. Good, 0.41. So, sure enough, right, as we added 10 pounds on the bar and moved up in both absolute and relative intensity, the bar speed went a little bit slower, or the bar speed was a little slower. All right, so she'll take another 45 seconds and do one more attempt. So what we do when we're building our velocity profiles is we take a few extra attempts at our lighter weights just to give us a few extra data points. As you move up in intensity and start approaching 78, definitely above 80, 85%, it's harder to take multiple singles because you just get fatigued and the results aren't quite as accurate. So you'll see once we get to 95 for Sam, she's only going to do one single, right, of 95, and then one single of 105, and then one single of 115 instead of multiple singles at each level. This just gives us some extra data points for our regression equation that we're going to do later on. Okay, 0.4, pretty close to what she was at before. All right, so you're 0.41 and 0.4. Okay. You could write those down. All right, so I end that. I'm going to hop on here real quick. So she can rest in between attempts. Let me just do 135. 135. All right, so that's hooked up. Yeah, you can see it's definitely hooked up in kilos. No big deal. All right, so I'm gonna quickly get on here, do 2 reps. This setup's a little lower than I normally would, but again, we're gonna kind of rush through this. Normally my J cups would probably be 2 settings higher than this. All right, so one of the main reasons why I wanted to do this with both myself and Sam was so you guys can see how velocity differs from person to person, right? So for me, 135 represents almost exactly 50% of my 1 RM, and I moved it at 0.65 meters per second. 75 pounds for Sam represents about 60%. I want to say 55% of her 1 RM. However, she moved it a decent bit slower than me. It doesn't mean it's worse. Her and I are just very different athletes. Okay, so I'm going to do one more single here. Better? Oh, pretty close. All right, I'm gonna quickly take my next 2 attempts.
Where are you on?
175. So we need 10 and both fives. All right, I'm gonna give myself about 30 more seconds to rest and then take this. So I apologize if the video quality is amateur or if you hear me breathing heavily. It's hard to speak with the mask and lift at the same time. All right. Again, I'm doing things you shouldn't be doing, right? I'm wearing slides while I'm working with weights. It's a big no-no, big no-no. All right. All right, 0.48, a decent bit of a slowdown. I got one more attempt. Now, I'd imagine at this point, the setup is definitely affecting me. Like I had to put a decent amount of work into that rep just to lift the bar off of the J cups. All right, so I think on the next attempt, I'm probably gonna start to switch the J cups after this. All right, so let's see if I can move this faster than 0.48. How'd we do?
4-9.
All right, success. All right, so Sam's gonna go now. We're gonna go to 95. Sam's competition max, I think, is 123. In the gym, she's hit 127?
Yes.
127. So, I'm not quite sure off the top of my head, but 95 represents, I think, roughly 75% of her 1 RM. So from here on out, she's gonna do singles. How are we doing on time here? 12 minutes? Perfect. Just only singles to go. All right, 0.35. So we'll have her go again for 105 in about a minute. Need some fives. Another thing you guys might notice, which might look a little different, is that for her, right, or for both of us, I should say, you'll see as we go through our descent on the bench press, as the bar touches our chest, right, we're pausing for a second, split second, whatever. This is something that's done in competitive powerlifting. So if you guys are a little confused, it's because in the sport of powerlifting, you have to pause and wait for an up command. Okay. 0.29, again, you can see how we're starting to get a little lower. All right, I'm gonna go 195 next. All right, same thing. I am going to start taking singles from here on out.
Yeah.
Just start again. So like one thing you might have just noticed is I pressed start and then I took the encoder off the barbell. So it actually measured the speed to take it off and then put it back on. All right, let's raise these J cups up too. So like I said, the setup is very important. I use settings too higher than hers on the rack. Make sure the velocity didn't record on that. .42. So you could see my speed was actually pretty good on that relative to the last set. And a lot of that just has to do with my setup. I'm going to take 215 next. What's that?
Just throw this 10.
So it's going to get... Again, this is a setup I would normally never do. A bumper, an iron, a bumper, an iron. Never do that. It's ugly.
It's bothering me.
All right. So I use wrist wraps because I'm old and arthritic-y. They do help my wrists as I bench press. Again, if I was standardizing this, I would I would use wrist wraps all the way up, but it would just take too much time. Okay, 215. Alright, so it's getting a little heavier. And you did 105?
Yeah.
So we're going to 115 for Sam, which all of a sudden is starting to get up there.
A little bit. Switch to iron.
If you'd like to.
It's bothering me.
Alright, we're going to switch to iron. It's only because it's bothering the participant. There's one. Just get this under. So, do you want to lift off here?
It will look prettier.
I'll set this ready. Yeah. All right, so again, like a competition, usually around 115 she starts getting lift offs.
Oh shit, it's hot.
Now you're gonna lower the J cups.
No.
She said it's. All right, 115, here we go. Starting to get up there. 90% plus of her max. All right, how'd that move?
Yeah.
So that's 0.21, which isn't bad for
It's
where she is. But that'll be her final point. And in class, you'll see kind of where these data points line up. I just did 215. I'm going to take one more, and then I'll be done for the day as well.
Where you going?
235. Did I stop that? Did not end. All right, so my best pulse max is 266. So this represents somewhere around, I don't know the math on that, I think slightly above 90%. I'll probably take a lift off as well.
Okay.
And we'll see how this moves. Gotta move the bar up too.
Which side? That side first?
Yeah, it's fine. All right, last attempt. So, you can see that definitely moved a decent bit slower, a lot slower. All right, that's it for this portion of the class. Actually, in class, we'll look at all these data points and then bring any question you guys might have.